Hi, my name is Danette Fretz, and I'm the author of a book called I Want Your Smile, Crocodile. And I've developed an object lesson that can be used in your children's ministry to go along with the book. Besides being an author, I am also an educator and have worked over 20 years in Christian schools. And this is a lesson that I shared in chapel with my students at my school. So what I did for this object lesson was I collected items that were specifically made of ceramic. You can collect what you have at home, but two things that are necessary are like white cup or just a plain ceramic cup, doesn't have to be white, and a pitcher full of water. Those are the two things that are necessary for this. I also collected a lump of clay because I'm an art teacher, but you do not have to have that. What I did is I asked the students, I said, who is really, really thirsty? And I chose a student that raised their hand that I knew would give me really good expressions and brought him up. And I said, so you're really, really thirsty? And I said, well, here. And then I got the expression I wanted, I said, oh, maybe that's a little too big. Let me try some other things. And so I tried pouring water onto a plate and handing him the water on the plate. And again, got the reaction I wanted, but said, well, that's not much water, and you probably want a little bit more than that because you're really, really thirsty. It's nice to have a large ceramic bowl. I have a tureen of some sort, so as you do these experiments, you can dump the extra water in there. The next thing I chose was a pot with a hole in it. I said, oh, well, this is a nice size. This will give you some more water. And, of course, then the water just drained out of it. So you can choose, and I was silly and chose some other things, tried pouring it onto the salt shaker, or, oh, what about this? And just a little tiny drink. Or I don't want to ruin this, and then, oh, my vase is really gross on the inside. You probably don't want to drink out of that. And when I was finished just kind of clowning around with some of these, I gave him his drink of water, let him drink it, and thanked him for helping me. Then I went into the book, but before I read the book, what I did was I asked the kids, I want you to think about something. I want you to think, what do each of these objects have in common? And then I read the story. So I'm just going to share with you a couple of the pages in this story. And the story is about a meerkat named Jack. And Jack is a spunky meerkat. And he goes through the zoo wishing he had the traits or characteristics of other animals. And the first one he comes to is the crocodile. And I'm going to read you a little bit of it. It says, I want your smile, crocodile. Kids love your pointy chin. If it were mine, they'd stand in line and wait for me to grin. On second thought, maybe not. And that's kind of the way the whole book goes. Jack thinks he wants the hose nose of an elephant, or he wants to swing from a tree like a chimpanzee. But just as he thought people would wait in line for him if he had a crocodile smile, but they're running away, things don't work out. And all through the book, Jack is pursued by the zookeeper. And the zookeeper pursues him, and at the end, he catches up with Jack at the polar bear enclosure. And what he says to Jack is, I want you back, Spunky Jack. I wish you understood that God's great heart designed each part and saw that you were good. Created for a purpose, a miracle it's true. Each friend, each child, each meerkat wild is happy you are you. And then at the very end, Jack says, I love my smile, crocodile. So this is a book about contentment in the way God has created you and being content with your gifts. I have made a sheet that you can see on my blog in PDF form and also in JPEG form that kind of goes through this lesson. It starts with the big idea being you are fearfully and wonderfully designed by a loving God, talks about the materials, and goes through what I've done so far. And then it has some discussion questions. What problem did Jack have? What happened when Jack became like the other animals? What did Jack learn? And then how do we sometimes act like Jack? Then I went back to that question that I had asked students before I began, which is, what do these things have in common? And the students will say a lot of things. They have a lot of creative ideas, and they'll find a lot of commonalities. But the ones that I emphasize are, each one of these items started as a lump of clay and were crafted by a potter for a specific purpose. And we talk about the purposes of some of these. This is an egg cup you can crack an egg into. This is a candle holder, and it's made for something that gives off light. This is a beautiful thing holding something beautiful. This is a pomander that holds potpourri, scents, gives off scent. And obviously there are a lot of Christian parallels you could go into here with fragrance and light. And that, but I would really encourage you to stay on track and stay with this, and maybe even bring this up, revisit it, review what you've done the week before in a subsequent lesson. So we talk about those things, and then I have some scriptures that go along with them, like Isaiah 64:8, which is the scripture about God is the potter and we are the clay. And then I have Isaiah 45:9, which is a fun scripture that talks about, does the pot argue with the potter, say, why did you make me this way? And you can talk about that. We sometimes argue with God, why did you make me this way? And then the second thing we talk about as far as commonalities is all of these were made to serve. And for that I use 1 Peter 4:10, and it says, God's gifts of grace come in many forms. Each of you has received a gift in order to serve others. You should use it faithfully. So we talk about how each of these things has a specific purpose and serves. This is holding a picture of my daughter. This is for butter. This is a soup tureen. Each one serves and has a specific purpose. And none of them says, I wish I wasn't created for this. And we come back then to the cup. And what I told the kids is, this cup, Jesse, my student that came up was named Jesse. Jesse was really, really thirsty. And none of these things worked to give him a drink. We had to get the thing that was created for giving water. And around us are people who are really thirsty for living water. And maybe you're the only one that can provide that drink. And I told them, I don't know your grandma. I don't know your neighbor. I don't really even know your parents. But you do. And you were the one that was put into your situation. But we don't want to be like those pots that say, well, I'd rather be this, or I'd rather be the egg cup or a vitamin jar. And if we are wasting our time wanting to be other things, rather than using the gifts God has given us to serve those around us and give them living water. So our response should be the last scripture that is on here, Psalm 139:14. I praise you, O God, because I am fearfully and wonderfully made, which is really the theme of my book. Now, you can take whatever scriptures you want. You can adapt this lesson. I also included a follow-up lesson, which is follow-up craft, which is to make ornaments. And these are doily ornaments. I bought some cheap doilies at the local thrift store. And what we did is I included some links to some cornstarch recipes. You can use salt dough or clay, whatever you'd like to use. And then we pressed the clay onto, we pressed the clay with different kinds of rollers that I had, rolling pins, and this is a salt shaker. I collected some different things to roll it with. And they press the doily on and then use cookie cutters to cut out the heart. Now you could do pinch pots, you could do a lot of things that the students could create. But some of those things go in the trash when they get home, which is kind of doesn't go with the lesson. But what I like about these is they're something kids will keep. And then while they are drying during the next week, you can write a scripture on the back for them. And I used a Sharpie marker and wrote, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, Psalm 139:14. If you're going to do something like this, of course I'd make a few extras for students who are absent, but you might even get a few students back the next week who wouldn't normally come back because they need to pick up their ornament. So I hope this is of value to you. I hope it's something you can use in your kids' ministry, and thank you for listening.